Steel is used in the construction of buildings in cities, and all these cities have a ever-growing population. And when the city gets so overcrowded, before this Bessemer steel, there's only so many places they could go because we couldn't build buildings that were super, super tall. There were no skyscrapers because the steel was too heavy and not strong enough. So it would get top heavy and wouldn't be able to support itself. So the beams and the sort of the skeleton of the building would eventually buckle. But now, thanks to this new fancy Bessemer steel, we can start to build taller buildings. We won't be building skyscrapers just yet because we don't have safety elevators, but we will start building taller buildings, which is going to help to improve the situation of overcrowding. We're also going to see suspension bridges. This picture right here is the first suspension bridge. A suspension bridge is a roadway suspended by steel cables. So you see all these cables that are holding it up. Those are steel sort of cables and wires that are physically sort of lifting and holding the road and the bridge up in the air. In 1883, we built the first one ever, which is this bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, which crosses the East River in New York. And at the time that they built it, it was actually the longest bridge in the world. Railroads are going to see a lot of invention and innovation. In 1869, George Westinghouse, the guy who I told you invented the technology to send electricity across long distances, he invents the air brake. If you've ever been near a school bus when it's stopping and you hear that very, very loud shh sound, that is an air brake releasing. So an air brake is basically like a really heavy duty brake for something big like a train or a bus. In 1887, this man on the far right, Granville Woods, invents a telegraph system for trains, making trains much more reliable because we can communicate with them while they're moving. That same year, the man on the left, Gustavus Swift, he was a meat packer, and he is working in the meatpacking industry, and he sort of is sparked with inspiration there and invents the refrigerated train car so we can ship meat and things that need to be kept cold further distances, which is really cool. So in 1883, by 1883, we have 3 transcontinental rail lines. We'll talk about the transcontinental railroad further down the line, but now that we have railroads that cross the entire continent, it's important that we have some type of regulated timing system. Back then, we didn't have time zones. Everything was sort of like on its own time, and it was fairly chaotic and not as reliable. There were no satellites to go by like now. We didn't have anything that could just set our clocks automatically. Every clock was set independently. So a lot of the train schedules were weird and difficult to keep track of. So in 1884, 27 countries meet together. They all send delegates, and they decide to use a time zone system, and they split the planet up into 24 time zones, one for each hour of the day. So you see our time zone there, that purple streak. Let me find my mouse right here. This is our time zone. So everything in this line is at the same time as us. We're all using the same time. If you move further this way, then the time changes and it goes different by 1 hour. If you go the other way, the time changes and it goes different by an hour. So that's how that works. 1 hour of the day with 24 different time zones. So railroads use this system, and obviously it's very successful because we still use it today. So railroads are going to be super important because they will continually allow for that settlement and expansion of the West. We're also going to see other forms of transportation, electric streetcars. You ever seen an electric streetcar? It sort of looks like a bus and a train had a baby, and it runs on something similar to a railroad track, but not exactly the same. It runs on a track, but it has these like antenna things that stick out the top of it and run along electric wires, and that's where it gets its power from. We'll see commuter trains and subways will start popping up in major cities, so lots of different forms of transportation. Growth is really just all that this time period is about. American industries are all interconnected. Factories spark more factories, spark more factories. It's sort of like a never-ending cycle. Demand is high from customers as well as other companies. So every industry is having to come up with its own system to keep up with demand. And so every form of industry will develop their own way to create a lot of one product at a time, and that's called mass production. The most famous system of mass production, I'm sure you've heard of, is the assembly line. You see this picture on the right is at the Ford factory using the assembly line. The assembly line is invented by Henry Ford, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So the impact of all this industrialization is massive. We're seeing tons, we've already said, more industry and growth, but all of that really changes the way that our culture and our world works. The world market is going to be a big thing. By the 1880s, the United States is dominating the grain, steel, and textile markets. So we are trading with really pretty much every continent, almost every country. The United States has more railroad track than the rest of the world combined, and we are really setting ourselves up to be an economic world power, and all these other economies are going to be very closely linked to ours. So like if something is to happen to our economy, like the Great Depression, which we'll get to soon, will tank sort of everything else because everyone's going to be so closely linked to us. This is also going to change society and culture. Everything is becoming industrialized. Even farmers are using machinery and mechanized systems like we've talked about. People are leaving rural areas, moving to cities to look for jobs. And the city is sort of going to be seen as like the center of culture and society because of all of this. The city has an easier access to goods, but at the same time comes with a higher cost of living and more difficult working conditions. So it's sort of a give and take. But with all of this, as industry grows, so does pollution and industrial waste. And increasing the farming in Midwest and all new farming techniques leads to sort of damaging the earth and in terms of like soil erosion and things like that. So for the first time, the government is going to start paying attention to what is the effect of all this industrialization and progress having on the planet. And in 1872, they'll take their first step towards environmental concerns, which is going to be creating the first national park, which was Yellowstone. Yellowstone National Park was the first federal response to environmental concerns. We created it set it aside as protected land, created it as a national park, and eventually that, along with several other parks, will morph into the National Park Service, but that won't happen until 1916.